Welcome to Ring the Damn Bell, Friday night SmackDown review episode. With me, my compadre, my brother from another mother, the less handsome version of myself, the wrestling enthusiast, Mark, who has no control over his freaking camera, and also back from Vegas, back from WrestleMania, which we will be talking about one night soon, is the Wrestling Encyclopedia. David Mitchell, what's going on, man? Glad to see you back.
Thanks for welcoming back. Yeah, a little tired, little sore. Had some accidents after post WrestleMania that we'll touch up later on, But I will say this, just to everybody out there: if you see two dogs fighting, don't try to break them up, even if they're your dogs. I'll just leave it that. It's a public service announcement. 12 staples later, future episode.
You just don't know how to break them up.
I did. Well, like I said, there's this technique to it, and I tried it, and the dog slipped. And, like I said, later episode, we won't delve into too much of my stupidity tonight.
Well, I'll be honest with you, David. I feel bad for you, but I almost feel worse for the dog. I can imagine the stomach ache he had after he bit into your ass.
Yeah, there ain't much there. That's what I'm saying. The doctor at the ER, we got to joking about it after the pain subsided, and is I got staples. And then he said, I don't know what he was it a toothpick he needed? Because you don't have much meat there. But yeah.
He was looking for a bone.
Definitely, definitely one of those old WWE don't try this at home type things. But yeah, thanks for the concerns there. I know those pictures I sent you look pretty nasty,
No, I love nasty stuff.
But man, I'm good. I'm glad everybody's blessed. I'm glad everybody's alive and breathing well. Yep. Looking forward to getting into Friday Night SmackDown here.
Absolutely, and let's get into it, Mark. What'd you think about the show overall? We know we're gonna get into it.
Overall, I thought I was excited about Zelina. But that final match was phenomenal.
It was.
And we'll get into that later.
Yeah, there was definitely some high spots. There were some low spots, in my opinion. There's some mediocre spots, and we'll get into it. David, overall, what do you think about the show?
Overall, post first WrestleMania, post SmackDown, I'd give it about a B+. I mean, they didn't come out like, this isn't hyped up like a night after Mania, Monday Night Raw, like they hyped that up, right? But it was still, hey, this is our chance to see our SmackDown guys first post WrestleMania. I think overall B+. The crowd going into it was pretty hot, right? Mm. So overall, I'd say a B+.
Yeah. So real quick, David, for some reason, certain people will come on the show. When I talk, I get feedback. It's happening on your end right now. So when I talk, I have to mute you. So watch for that mic to unmute whenever I come to you for you to speak. So, all right, Mark, let's get into it, man.
All right, so we start with John Cena to the ring. And before he could even speak, after he had the ring announcer re-announce him, Randy Orton came to the ring. Randy Orton was pretty much going over how John was the last 25 years and what's changed. And, he determined that John needs kids. John turned that around on him and said he's tired of raising everybody else's kids, pretty much. Pretty soon a fight ensued, and John got the upper hand for a second, and Randy RKO'd him.
Yeah, I love Randy Orton.
I do too.
He's one of my favorites. But for myself, and I'm just talking about myself here, this kind of felt it felt dead for me. The whole unique kids thing, it was corny. It's not something that I see coming from Randy Orton organically. I just wasn't a big fan of that part. Of course, love Randy Orton getting the RKO in. But yeah, I wasn't overly thrilled. David, how'd you feel about the spot? And do you think this feud with John Cena is way too soon? Because we know that Cena's not dropping a belt to him. It's too fast. Should this have been later on, where at least the fans would have been invested because they didn't know exactly which way it was going to go?
I think, yeah, it's too rushed. Number one, as soon as you've seen on the calendar that Backlash was in St. Louis, that was a guarantee that Randy Orton was going next, right? You want to sell tickets, but it was too rushed. If you're going to run this Cena story all the way to December, if you look at Cena's entire body of work in the WWE, there have been two people that have been his constant thorn in his side. CM Punk at times and Randy Orton, right?
Yep.
Randy Orton has more there's more meat on the bone with Randy, so I think they should have waited. I would have personally loved to see that at the end, right? It's kind of like you've taken out everybody. I'm the last one standing here, right? That should have been, but it is what it is. Who knows where they're going to go later on in the year, right? Do they go back?
Right. And that's my thing. And Mark, this is to you, to David's point. Would it make sense to have this be one of Cena's last matches? Drop the belt to Randy Orton, and that way we'd be going into that Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes feud, because before WrestleMania, we seen the two, even though they was friendly, hey, Randy came to the mat or to the ring and said, "No, you have the belt. I'm coming after you." So same question, basically.
Yeah, no, I think David's right. I think they're going to come back around on this, and he's right on two folds, because CM Punk and Randy Orton are probably going to be two of his final feuds. To be honest, I'd love to see Randy get another title. I'd like to see Randy tie John if possible. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's too soon. Randy's going to lose. Anytime you're booked in your hometown, you're going to lose.
Yep.
I do have a point to that. So if you follow the story, if they are gonna say it does circle back down to Randy at the end, and Randy's always said wanting to tie it. I know people are looking at look at the TNA heavyweight title. It's not the WWE, but it counts against your total career standings, right? What if, okay, like you said, Mark, we're in St. Louis, Randy's losing. Then in the interim, he goes off and it's him and Joe Hendry back and forth. And I know, but just hear me out. He snags a couple TNA titles that puts his count up there with Cena at 17. Then they come back full circle in DC. He beats him. Now I'm 18. Now you have to shake my hand on your way out the door.
David, rewind, because I accidentally hit your mute button. Mm-hmm. So, yep. So yeah, shut up, Mark. So, the last thing I heard you say was talking about adding on the counts to Randy Orton. So go from there.
So if they do, right, Randy loses to John, obviously at Backlash. Then sometime between, what's that now, May and October, back and forth, Joe Hendry and Randy Orton on a TNA pay-per-view scale, right? Randy snags a couple TNA titles to the point where by October, he is now a 17-time world champion. What did John say when he said he was taking the title? He said, I'm taking the title because I want to be the one to shake the person that weighs 18, right? Obviously, you get him and Randy 17 time, you got two TNA titles. Randy beats him on the way out the door. The last thing you see John Cena in the middle of the ring is shaking Randy Orton's hand, leaving his shoes and walking out. That would be a perfect send-off instead of sending himself off as a heel.
Yeah, I can see that. Go ahead, Mark.
Doesn't Randy have 14 world titles right now?
I thought it was 15. Let me look. Go ahead and with that comment, but I thought he might have 15. He might be 14.
I think he's tied with Triple H with 14, I think. All right, so going forward, then we got a match with Fraxum versus Las Garza. That Nathan Frazier, I don't care how fast you think Braun Breaker is, that Nathan's faster. He can't get the force that Braun can, but he is faster ring to ring. I really haven't had much exposure to these guys because I don't watch NXT much. I have seen them on SmackDown or Raw once or twice. I have seen them on NXT. You know what? These guys are really a fast moving team, and Lagarza was a perfect team to match them with, to be honest. Because they're speed for speed, they're there. I like to see them against Motor City Machine Guns, though. To be
Well,
honest,
yeah, and I love this match. I hope they keep on bringing in good tag teams because that's where WWE's really lacking right now is in the tag team division. Now, I'll be honest with you, and I know it's not going to happen yet, but I would love for the draft to have Penta and Ray together. I would love to see a match between Lucha Bros versus
Lagarza,
no, the Nathan,
Fraxum.
yeah, Faxum. I think that would be an incredible match. I really do.
I'd like to see the Lucha Brothers against each other, to be honest.
I think that's definitely going to happen before they get put back together. David, what did you think about this match? And how well do you think that Fraxum is going to fit in when it comes to the tag team division on SmackDown?
I think SmackDown, it was a damn good match. Get that started. Real quickly, Mark, you were correct 14 times. Randy's 14 times, so they'd have to, do a few things. But anyway, about this match, the match was good. I love the match. I love the flow of the match. The thing that I'm afraid of going forward, if they don't kind of like clear the smoke a little bit, is that they will get lost in the sauce, so to speak. Maybe a move to Monday Night Raw eventually, right? But I think, Mark, you just said it. The match I'm looking for with the Lucha Brothers is with the Motor City Machine Guns. I think that's the money match right now in that SmackDown tag team division. Not to take nothing away from Fraxum, coming up from NXT, but I think with what you got right now, the Lucha Brothers and Motor City Machine Guns, here, let me get my wallet. You know what I mean? That's the money match of the division.
But this is the problem. Cool, I don't have that feedback right now. This is the problem. I don't see whoever's booking was Triple H's head of creative. The way they've been booking those guys, oh, there it is. So the way they've been booking those guys, man, I don't see them getting booked in any type of a match where there's a positive outcome with these guys. They are just constantly taking L's. And I don't know why, because they are damn good. To both of you guys, Mark, you can go first. Do you see Lagarza, that's the name of the team?
Yep.
Do you see them getting past this booking of basically being enhanced talent into an upper mid card and possibly being tag team champions?
I do, but I don't see it in the foreseeable future. I think these guys have so much talent, so much talent. Them versus Lucha Brothers would be awesome. Them versus Motor City Machine Guns would be awesome. These guys make anybody they face look good, and they ain't carrying anybody per se, but they add that much more to the match. I mean, individually, these guys are phenomenal. Together, they're extraordinary.
Yeah, same question, David.
I totally agree. I mean, it's no matter who you put them in with, they've made whoever they've been put in with look that much better. Even if they're put in there with somebody top guys, they make the top guys look from gold to platinum, right? It just sucks that, there's the phrase lost in the sauce, right? That eventually, and I said that to you, Kevin, a few episodes ago about Ray Phoenix and Penta, that I hope eventually after the newness wears off, they don't get lost in the sauce, or they eventually lump them up in a LWO type faction, right? But I think if they can get the right feud, that they won't get lost in the sauce. And I think the only feud with that right now is the Motor City Machine Guns. But I think they're gonna have to do something in a match. I would love to see a 4-way tag team match to where I know it's a lot of moving parts, right? for the guys to work around, but for the fans, you get the oohs and the ahs, and then you walk away talking about, the guys in it, not just, oh, okay, so and so won. You know what I mean?
Yep, kind of like what happened at the main event, which we'll get to. So go,
Yep.
Mark.
All right, so next we got Tiffy coming in the ring. Was it me or was there kind of mixed reactions on the fans? Some booed, some cheered, you know.
Yep.
But she came out and she was pretty much bragging, and to me, she has every right. She put on a good match. She beat Charlotte, and it was a better match than I anticipated. She looked like hell after the match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I think she's got every right to brag. But lo and behold, Jade comes out, and Jade looked phenomenal. Always. She spends a lot of time looking that good, or to make herself look that good. Said she came out to remind everybody that now she's done with Naomi, that she came here for gold. So she's looking for Tiffany. And Tiffany obliged, and they had a match.
Yeah, and I tell you, I wasn't that impressed with the match, in my opinion.
It looked very choreographed.
Very, very, absolutely. David, is this a match that had you on the edge of your seat?
No, and I love Jade. I love Jade to death, and Tiffany's a hell of a worker. I mean, if you would have had to been at Mania in person to watch that, hear the crowd reaction, see things. But Tiffany is a badass, right? She took Charlotte's best stiff shots. I seen that, in person, but there was no build to this. They had no interaction before. Now I get it, impromptu match, and I'm not against impromptu matches like that with meaning, right? I mean, it's kind of like it was thrown together. Now, if you're trying to build something forward, you don't have a full match. You have something where it's a dusty finish, right? She says she's done with Naomi. Then in the middle of this match, you have Naomi come in. Now you got a slow build to make that Tiffany Jade mean more than just, hey, I want your title. Everybody knows they want your title, right?
Yeah,
but
and this is.
Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, and you mentioned Naomi, who came in and interrupted the match. Those punches by Naomi last night when she was on top of Jade was absolutely terrible, man. You could tell she was hitting nothing but air. First person I thought about was Bob, probably, yelling at the TV, because Bob is known for having the best punch in the business back in his day. That part was absolutely terrible. What I do like about Naomi, though, something she did was she just seems so unhinged. That was really good. Now,
She's got kind of a Brian Pillman to her.
yeah, absolutely. Now we've seen Nia come in. That I was just shaking my head about. We've done Tiffany and Nia Jax a couple of times since she won the title. Why do we want to see this again? Bart, are you excited about another feud with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax?
It really doesn't bother me because I think Nia has improved greatly over the last 3-4 years. But I think the days of pushing her as the unstoppable force is not accurate anymore because Tiffany has beat her twice.
Well, and this is a thing, Mark, though, and I agree with you. She has gotten better. But this is kind of like a rerun that I just don't want to see again. David, same question. Is this something that you're really wanting to see again? Nia Jax coming back fresh against Tiffy.
Yes and no. I like Nia. I like the story, the comeback story, the improvement story. You look 7 years ago, it was, you didn't know if the crowd was chanting, "You can't wrestle," or John Cena or her, right? And having stiff matches. I mean, look, Becky Lynch doesn't become the man, right, without Nia Jax breaking her nose in Madison Square Garden, right? Oh. So there's plus and minus to it, but I was never really excited. I was when she was going against Tiffany, right? When Tiffy had the briefcase, I was invested in it on the Tiffy side, right? Now you've conquered that mountain, and it's kind of like the matches were never close. It's like, what if one drop kick less, you might have had her, things like that, right? So it was never of a You just barely got her. The matches were too far in, Tippy's favor or the other favor to have, a lot of investment, emotional investment to where, hey, this is the match I've got to see, right? I only see this now as filler because I think they still think the money is somewhere with Jade and maybe a Charlotte. So they're trying to shuffle the cards and figure out how do we get that without making it so obvious in the beginning, right? With just straight. There's got to be a belt in there.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay, so hold on, real quick. Are we biased though towards the women because we've all seen Randy and John over the years numerous times, multiple times, yet we're invested in this again. All right. But we're going to complain that we've seen Nia and Tiffany 3 times in the last year. All right. So are we a little bit biased or is the John Randy thing too far in the past? It's still relevant now.
To your point to that, Mark, I don't think we're biased. I think with the history of the Randy John to compare that, everybody was more invested in that over the years, right? It doesn't matter when they first feuded back in the Ruthless Aggression days to when they were battling for WWE titles, you were invested to each chapter of the story. I think with the Nia Tiffany, you're invested in one page, but you turn the page and you lose interest and we're trying to get you back. Not that there's not meat on the bone, but I think you were more invested in Randy John at times than you were anything else. Does that make sense?
Right. So because there's more interest in the male wrestling than the female wrestling.
Unfortunately, yes, at times there is. I will say that. And that has to do with the way they're presented. The story is presented on TV, right? You only get 2-3 hours. So they're only going to put what they want you to see. So if they're only putting the women on for 5 minutes, right? Let's just say it's hard to get truly hardcore invested, right?
Yep.
Well, and for myself, though, this is the thing. I don't think it's that I'm being biased. When it comes to Nia Jax, I don't think she can cut a good promo. So I have a hard time staying interested in her promos. She's very limited to her moveset in the ring. So I'm kind of bored with her a little bit versus John. No, John's not the greatest in the ring, but he could cut a hell of a promo. And then there's Randy Orton, who's just good all around. So I for myself, don't really think I'm being biased. It's just a matter of I'm going to have a hard time being invested in this again when I wasn't invested the first time.
Yeah, I think Dave's right though. I think it's down to a time factor. John and Randy got 12 minutes. Nia got 2.5 minutes. So all right. So next we go to Jacob Fatu to the ring with Solo. Solo pretty much claiming that he brought Fatu into the belt picture or whatever you want to call it, and right then and there, Jacob took the mic and said, "Nah." Well, no, that was LA Knight. So LA Knight comes to the ring demanding his rematch. And lo and behold, Drew McIntyre comes to the ring demanding a match too. LA Knight challenges Drew to a match and says, "Hey, you want it? Come get some." Nick Aldis comes out and says, "Hey, why don't you guys go put your clothes on and then come back out and wrestle?" All right. Whoever wins gets a match against Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is where I'm at with this. They need to pull the trigger with turning Fatu into a babyface and get this feud with him and Solo going because, LA Knight came in and he got a really good pop. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to the match, it's going to be all Fatu, like we keep on seeing. So either, they need to get to the point with him and Solo. I like LA Knight, but this whole thing is something else that was just kind of a little goofy for me because LA Knight, according to him, has his automatic. He wants his rematch, his rematch clause, as he said last night himself. But then all of a sudden, we have a number one contender match between him and Drew. Why would you want to do that if you were LA Knight? You know, why would you just want to automatically have your rematch, as you said from the get go? So
Ego.
it was. You're right. You're right. But I mean, overall, this wasn't terrible. But I just think that they need to go ahead and pull the trigger and have Fatu a baby face, because whoever's in the ring with them, they're going to get booed during the match. David, what do you think about this?
I love this segment. I do agree with you though. If I'm LA Knight, I'm like, hold up, bullshit. I don't need a number one contenders match. I should be the number one contender, right? But since he bypassed that, um, you know, you got what you got. But I'm like this, just like you said, you're gonna have to hurry up. We already know there was a promo, you know, in the ring. You can already tell the seed has already been laid even before he won the U.S. title. Of we might be kin folks, but I'm on my own, really, right?
Yeah.
Like the backstage promo between him and Solo. Um, you're setting up the inevitable, which is a full-fledged face turn. But I think with the way they present the Jacob Fatu character, his character doesn't care if he's face or heel. He's going to be the same Wolverine, Samoan Wolverine, that you get as a face or a heel. The only thing that's going to change is the crowd cheering or booing, right? You're going to get the same everything.
He'll
Which
be
is
the
what I like about
anti-hero.
Jeff Fatu. What's
Yeah.
that?
He'll be the anti-hero.
Yeah, kind of like a Stone Cold. He told you at the beginning, I'm not here to be cheered. I'm not here. I don't care if I'm cheered or booed. I'm still the same Steve Austin,
Yeah,
and
but
everybody captivated to that.
this is the
Yep.
thing, though, David. You're right. But what's going to change is, because it was the same thing with Steve Austin back during the Attitude Era. What's also going to change is the people that they're facing in the ring. More times than not, even though Stone Cold was an anti-hero, he was facing a legit heel. And it's gonna be the same thing with Fatu. And my thing is that constantly putting Fatu in matches with these baby faces, it almost kind of makes the baby face look bad a little bit, because the crowd isn't necessarily behind them. Um, Mark, what do you think that we're going to see them pull that trigger anytime soon?
I think so. I think probably the next 2 pay-per-views you'll see it.
Yeah,
Maybe not
hopefully
the next
so.
one, but I think the next one.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be more organic though. I don't think they're gonna turn them face. I think it's just gonna happen organically.
yeah,
I think the crowd's gonna choose it.
right, right.
All right, so then we go to an LA Knight and Drew match. Let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry. Hold on. We go to an interview with Zelina. She's gonna bring a little Latino heat tonight. All right. You could tell though. You could tell something was gonna happen just because the look on her in her eyes. So, anyways, then we go to the match with Zelina and what the hell's her name? Damn it! Oh,
Chelsea
Chelsea.
Green.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what? This was actually a halfway decent match, but I really thought Zelina was outmatched and outclassed. To be honest, uh, she got a code red, which isn't that pop rocks that Roxanne Perez uses? Isn't that the same move?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. All right.
It
Well,
is.
anyways, she wins with the code red. But the excitement she had winning the title, I was happy for her. I've always liked Zelina. I always thought she was a good worker. I was happy for her to get the title. Uh, Chelsea had a nice run. I'm not going to sit there and say different. The whole security thing kind of bores me, but whatever. I think it's an added touch to it, but it kind of bores me.
Yeah, so was my issue with this. It was definitely a feel good moment, right? She got the belt, massive pop, good for her. My issue is this: she's not keeping it long. Chelsea's going to get the title. She's going to retain the title again, and be a two-time um champ. And I really hate when they do that to talent that I consider decent, making them transitional champions. David, do you foresee her having this title long, or do you foresee her dropping it? Probably a backlash.
I see her probably if she doesn't drop it at Backlash, she'll drop it soon after that. And here's a problem I have, and I don't want to give away anything that happened the rest of the night. But when you have talent that their significant other works for the company as well in the same capacity that they do, sometimes when one of the talent either, hey, I'm leaving, they try to appease their significant other, right? To keep entice the other one to stay. Or same way with a significant other coming back. Hence the reason Chelsea Green, it's well reported. Everybody knows she's married to Matt Cardona, and it well reported Matt Cardona has been open to coming back to WWE post his, indie run that, he did what he said he was going to do. But the point is, it makes it hard to get. It's not fair to these ladies because they've worked their ass off just like the guys, right? And Zelina Vega is no different. The match, I think, kind of fell flat as far as, what it was trying to accomplish. And it sucks because a lot of these ladies they bust their ass like the guys, right? And it just a transitional, here, we'll give you this, but next month she's getting it back.
And well, this is something else too. I really wish that WWE would kind of not have such a tight grip on the type of matches they could have, because Chelsea Green has a lot more she could do than she does. And so does Selena. I think that if WWE would have just said, hey, go out there and tear the house down, I think we could have had one hell of a match. But I think I call it being WWE-nized. Basically, they say, this is what you can do, and this is what we don't want you to do. And on one hand, I get it. They're trying to preserve their career and the longevity of it. But on the other hand, I think that it really hurts them at times. Go ahead, Bart.
No, I think the biggest thing is they're trying to prevent some legal issues and some unnecessary medical issues. Hence, it will extend their careers. But I think first and foremost, why pay unnecessary medical bills if you don't have to? And why have potential legal issues when you don't have to? So, yeah. So in doing that, it benefits their career, but it stagnates the matches.
Yeah. What about you, David? Do you think that if they would just be able to go out there and tear the house down, that we would have that damn good match? And do you think that WWE should let them do it? Or do you agree with WWE by saying, hey, we don't want you kind of doing some of the crazy shit that you guys could do?
I agree with all of it on all points. If you look at it from all sides, you put yourself in each different position. From a WWE standpoint, you're my employee. If I let you go out and constantly do these risky moves, you're only going to be my employee for a little bit. It's hard for me to invest all kinds of other things that make this wheel go, right? From the fans, from our standpoint, I don't pay to see arm drags and hip tosses, right? I want to see moonsaults and 720, things like that. So in the performers, they want to appease both sides, right? So they're torn. Do we do what the boss wants, or do we do what the fan, So I agree. I see the point on all sides. I do think, though, that some of it just overall needs to be dialed in. You don't need to see it every Monday or Friday. Some of that stuff should be saved for a PLE, right? Make it special. Like, it's kind of like if I turn on the match on Monday, oh, I missed it Monday, I'll just turn it on Friday because I can see the exact same. There's nothing to differentiate, right? They need to allow them to mix it up a little, right?
Yep.
And save some of those. If you're going to allow them to do the risky moves, make it mean something. Save it for a pay-per-view where there's a payoff.
Well, and I think that, to your point, I agree with you, saving it where there's a payoff. But when you have a big title match like this, I think these were the matches that they should let them go out there and do their thing. I completely agree with that. All right, Mark.
Oh, in case I didn't say it, and new U.S. champion,
Yeah.
Zelina Vega. All right. Let's see. Oh, recap of Carmelo winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Yawn. Sorry. Camilla does nothing for me. Sorry. Miz gives him a necklace doll of Andre's face. I
This
thought that was
was
priceless.
this was probably the worst segment for me. That chain that he gave Camille, I'm like, really, come on, man. I mean, look, I think Miz is really underrated. Um, but at the same time, I don't think that he's necessarily doing anything that's going to launch Carmelo Hayes' career. Or David and Mark, should be the same question for you. Let David go first. Am I completely wrong?
At this point, I don't think you're completely wrong about nothing about with Carmelo Hayes at all. The potential's there, right? Everything. Can't say the it factor, but he checks off all the boxes except for one thing. You got to put him in. You got to, if you brought him up, what have you done with him? Usually those guys, when you bring them up, they automatically, they don't have a Chris Jericho to throw them in there with that could carry them for a month, 2 months, and you know what I mean. Whereas I think that's what they're trying to use the Miz for, to elevate talent. Because if you look, love or hate his character, anything that dude they've thrown in front of him, whether you like it or not, he's made it work. He's taken chicken shit and made chicken salad multiple times over the course of the past 20 years, right? I think he is very underrated when it comes to elevating younger talent below him to get them up to the main level, right? But as far as this segment, it did nothing. Matter of fact, I actually got up and went to the bathroom and took pain meds and cleaned my dressing during that segment.
All right, so next we go to the Miz in the ring, ranting all about, and at this point, during his rant, all I could think about was Toby Keith's song, "All About Me." Lights go out, and Aleister Black comes up. Now is this the same entrance he had before, where he was kind of raised up? I thought it was new, but then I'm like, no, this. Nonetheless, Aleister Black found Rey Mysterio's other contact, and it came to the ring.
Yep.
Real
quick, Mark, real quick, let me interrupt you for a second. The entrance, that was his original when he came from NXT to WWE main roster, but Vince McMahon eventually changed it, which I think it ruined his entrance.
Yeah,
so
it
it's
did.
good to see that he's coming back at Triple H to have him go back to his normal entrance. Go ahead,
Right,
Mark.
because I think it's probably one of the best entrances I've seen in years.
Right.
So anyways, the God, who's Michael Cole's counterpart on SmackDown?
He was
Joe?
terrible.
No, but he kept talking about the black mass. All right. So Aleister gets to the ring, takes his jacket off, sets it down, and Miz comes up. Who do you think? And Black Mass drops him like a bad habit.
Yeah. So the reason why I think Joe was terrible during this segment was there was just nothing. He was just flat when Aleister Black made his comeback when they first showed him. I'm not a fan of Joe. I'm a fan of him when he's interviewing a wrestler because it reminds me of Mean Gene so much. I think he's better used during those segments with talking directly. But as far as being part of the color commentary team, not a big fan of his. David, what did you think about all the above?
Unmute him.
Yeah,
there we go. I think Joe is best used in those Roy Firestone up close segments, right? I part of it, I don't know if it's just me. Part of it is his voice coming out over TV, right? And it's almost like he's being force fed of what to say. Granted, he's not a wrestling guy, right? He brought him in from ESPN, and sometimes history will prove that doesn't necessarily equate over to wrestling.
Yeah, but let me interrupt for a second, David. I will give credit when credit's due, though. Although he's not my favorite color commentary, for a guy who is a non-wrestling guy, he sure as hell, though, has picked up so much, especially when it comes to the names of the different moves. Very impressed with him when it comes to that.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. He's not the worst they've ever had. Obviously, he's not the best, but he's not the worst. He's not a Jimmy Smith. Do you guys remember the Jimmy Smith experiment with the WWE, right? Now, to me, I thought Jimmy Smith, you hearing him, it sounded like we got Joe Rogan on commentary, right? Now, granted, they both work for Sirius XM. We lose Mark?
Now, Mark, you there?
He might have lost connection. Anyway, but then here's what Jimmy Smith did. Here's his biggest mistake is Pat McAfee asked him live on the air before WrestleMania 38, and they were talking about Dallas, right? He said live on the air, I would not, he goes, you're going to have a beer with me and Stone Cold after he stomps the mud hole in Kevin Owens? No. He said, why would I? I don't drink. And he said, but it's Texas, it's WrestleMania. No, he goes, he said this is what kills me. Who is Steve Austin to me? I knew from that way, as soon as he made that comment, he was done, right? Right after WrestleMania, Jimmy Smith was gone. I think Joe Tessitore is smart enough to know, hey, I don't quite know the history and lineage of all these moves and wrestlers, so let me trust what's coming into my ear, right? And to the listening public, it tends to sound like it's force-fed, but he's learning.
Yeah. So hold on, David.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on with Mark. Let me get the card from last night so we can move right on. I knew I should have printed out the card myself. Next we are on. All right, Return of Aleister Black. Next thing is the LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre. This match was exactly what you expected it to be. But the fact that Damian Priest interfered in this match, it really surprised me and went this way, because what that did was it gave Drew McIntyre the win, because LA Knight got disqualified. So after the match, we see a little bit of heat between LA Knight and Damian Priest. And then, of course, they both just get their asses handed to them by Fatu. My problem with this is I like Fatu. I love how they're making him look strong. But, man, Fatu taking out both Drew McIntyre and LA Knight, that made those guys look really, really weak. I don't think that they should have went to that level of trying to show Fatu being that strong, because if he could take out LA Knight and Drew McIntyre, that leaves the question. Hold on a second. Oh, Mark is back. Hold on, guys. There he goes. So no, we good. So that leaves the question. If Fatu could take out LA Knight and Drew McIntyre by himself, who the fuck is going to ever beat Fatu? Sometimes I think they go too far with trying to make someone look strong. Mark, and I'll come to you, David. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that they kind of overstretched with trying to make Fatu look that strong?
Well, first of all, he took out all three of them because he took out Damien too.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right. No, because all of them had been in a match, so they were already fatigued and tired. That'd be the excuse or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they're making him look like a juggernaut, and I don't think anybody should be portrayed that way. And that stretches all the way back to Hogan. Nobody should be portrayed as that way. The only person in history that should be portrayed that way was Andre the Giant.
I agree.
Other than that, nobody should be.
I agree too. The way I would have kind of perceived that segment, okay, you got Drew McIntyre and LA Knight. Obviously, they're fatigued, they're tired, right? Shouldn't have been that much to take them out. Then maybe maybe a squabble between Fatu and Damian Priest. He doesn't take him out, but to the point where they get to a point where they're facing off, right? And it's like, hey, instead of a complete squash of everybody, because you're trying to force us to see something that we already know about Jacob Fatu, that he's a badass, right? You don't need to show that every single time, right? Because then eventually, like you said, it's going to make, hold on, then he's unbeatable, but he's beatable.
Right.
And I want to correct what I said. I said that Fatu took out LA Knight and Drew McIntyre. He actually took out LA Knight and Damian Priest, which leads me to the point that you made up, Mark, that, they had been wrestling. Damian Priest was just about fresh, man. He had ran in. So, I could see Fatu not having a big problem with LA Knight. He was fatigued. He's been wrestling. But to take out Damian Priest and LA Knight at the same time, that's
You gotta
just
suspend your disbelief.
I get that. I completely get that. But at some point, though, I also like it being reality as well, because it doesn't look, to me, that just looks so hokey. It was kind of like The Fiend. They made The Fiend look so unbeatable. And what happened at his first Hell in a Cell match? He got beat by something ridiculous. That is my fear with Fatu, that they're going to do something stupid and he's going to get beat when he should have gotten, get beaten. So go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So then we go to a recap of Raw with Seth, Paul, and Braun. We already know what happens there. Then we have the three-way match with Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, and the Street Profits. And Montel Ford is raiding HBK's closet.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
He walked out. I'm like, God damn, someone's been in HBK's closet.
Right.
Phenomenal match. And anytime you can bring a prosthetic leg in. Now, I've watched wrestling for 40 plus years, probably bordering on 50 damn near. And I don't recall ever seeing a prosthetic. Well, maybe once, but I don't recall it too often.
Yeah, and I tell you what, there's only one question I can possibly ask, because this match was,
It was a 4-star match, easily.
Absolutely. So there's only one question to ask. What's next for each of these teams? David, what do you think?
I think going forward, I mean, we just talked about that earlier about the tag team scene, what we need. And this is the fresh shot in the arm, a match like this, right? And a main event. Not only that, it was the main event, right? When you talk about the prosthetic leg, it's funny that you bring that up. I have a friend of mine that I met at WrestleMania 38. His name is John. He lives out in New Jersey, has a prosthetic leg. He's gotten it autographed at all the Busted Open events, right? The thing, and when I seen that, right, and somebody shared that online, a meme of that, right? And I tagged him in it because it was funny, because, his prosthetic leg, he talks about that all the time. And to your point, Mark, I hadn't seen nothing to do with no prosthetic legs since the time, I think it was Brian Pillman pulled off Ox Baker's leg ringside. Or it was something at an old WWE event, right? Where they, were the guys that attacked one of the legends sitting ringside, but to actually grab a fan's prosthetic leg had a, unique.
Was he a fan? Was he a fan, or was he a fan?
I think it was a fan.
It was the fan's prosthetic leg that Montez Ford grabbed, used it, and then the cool thing is he tossed it back to him, and the fan grabbed it and held it up, and it was like, yay! And he's probably thinking, I got to go buy a new prosthetic leg.
Right, the crowd went nuts.
Oh, man, and hey, if I was in the crowd, that would have been the pop of the night, right?
Right.
Like, loudest pop of the night had to be that moment. And I think that's what they need from the tag team division overall. Things like that, right? Because when you got too many teams, then things, like you said, lost in the sauce. But then when you have matches like this, I think they need to have, when you have so many interesting teams, you're going to have these triple threats and four, what did they have at WrestleMania that year where the Hardys returned? What was it, like an eight team ladder match,
Yep.
things like that. Yes, we don't want to see it every week, but man, that last night proved why we can have good matches like that in the tag team division. Now, as far as getting HBK's wardrobe, if you've seen Montez Ford coming into the arena beforehand, you know, he had that big black cowboy. Reminded me straight of HBK Royal Rumble in San Antonio, Texas.
Yep.
Straight out.
Right. They were in Fort Worth last night.
Yep. And I tell you what, the only critique I really have is Ciampa, my man. Man, you're great. But for the love of God, grow that beard back. Because I'm half-ass joking, but I'm half-ass being serious. Ciampa didn't look like the killer he normally does because he was clean shaven. When he has that scrudgy, look, I mean, this looks like a guy, even though he's a smaller guy, that you don't want to piss off in a bar because, he'll fucking stab you. So please grow it back for the love of God. Go ahead, David. Hold on.
Quickly to the beard missing, right? So it was reported he slipped and fell in Vegas, right? On his chin and had a gash about 1.5 inches long, right? So to close that up, they had to cut the hair away there. So it would have been like, Kevin, if you would cut a big old chunk out of your chin and left the rest, right? It's like, hold up, let's cut it all off, start from scratch and go again. So it wasn't just I feel like shaving my beard type thing day. Right. So just on Ciampa, because they like to control everything, and you got to get permission for a haircut, new hairstyle, and everything. So, but yeah, there was pictures going around online during WrestleMania weekend with a picture of the gash.
So, Mark, who would you like to see face next the tag team champions for the title?
I think there's some unfinished business with Morrison and Machine Guns. I think that'd be a classic match, truly. Montel Ford and his buddy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. You got to think back 2 years ago. These guys were Las Garza. They were jobbers.
Yeah.
They didn't start getting on a winning streak till they got with Bobby Lashley. Like 1.5 years ago or whatever it was. And then Lashley left, and they were still jobbing.
Yep. So I know this is the end of the recap. If you don't mind, Mark, I would like to spend the next 10 minutes talking to David a little bit, because David was actually at WrestleMania both nights. There's a lot of controversy over this WrestleMania. People were saying that this was the worst WrestleMania ever. It was trash. I disagree. I like this WrestleMania. Was it as good as other WrestleManias? Well, it wasn't, but it was still good. People were all saying that the first night was terrible. The second night was mediocre. I think the first night was good. I think the second night was great. Now, when it came to the crowd noise, David, and I text you this, over the TV, there was some points that the crowd just didn't seem like they were as in it as what you normally have at WrestleMania. Being there in person, was that crowd just going crazy and popping all night long? Hold on. Hold on. All right, go ahead.
I won't say popping all night long, right? There was unexpected moments where they popped, and it was like, whoa, overall, though, the crowd popped when it was supposed to, when you had expected it to, and how you expected it to, with the exception to it. Well, I think when Joe Hendry came out night 2 against Randy Orton, right? That ended a lot of, because everybody's like, Rusev, Aleister Black, even heard, faint, rumors of Goldberg, right? Who was in Vegas. But Joe Hendry, the crowd popped just as loud for Joe Hendry's reaction as it would for any of those other guys, right? Not to be unbiased at all, and I'm a Steve Austin guy. So when he came out on night 2 to announce the crowd, he got the Steve Austin pop, right? Dominic Mysterio.
Let me stop you for a second. Let me stop you for a second. When Austin wrecked into the guardrail, what was the fans' reaction with you being there live?
Just a normal reaction, because if you know, from my view, and I was on, I'm in the upper bowl, but I could see down to that rail. To correct any rumors, the lady was not over the rail. The lady was not even standing up on the 12-inch padding at the top. She was sitting down, stood up at her seat. So she was a good 2 steps from the rail when he hit, right? So he never came in contact with her, but the crowd reaction was just a normal, because they had seen him bump the rail before, right? And but it was just a regular Steve Austin reaction, nothing over normal, nothing below, like, wait a minute, that's Steve Austin and you guys ain't cheering that loud, right? And I'm a Steve Austin fan, so I was at the top of my lungs. But like I said, crowd-wise, I don't know how it come over TV, and I'd like to ask your 2 opinions. Dominic Mysterio got the loudest pop of WrestleMania. I don't care what they say, coming or going. Dominic Mysterio, to the point where the cameraman had him go back to the ring to get more of the pop, right? And the way they had outside the stadium set up for the post show with Big E, Wade Barrett, and I forget who else was on the panel, right? Dominic, at the end of night 2, he came out to their set, right? Had the biggest pop of the crowd that was leaving Allegiant Stadium. They stopped up on the bridge and watched the post show from the bridge because Dom was down there, right? Sky's the limit. I don't care. He was started off to me as one of those annoying characters, right? But like the Miz did for me,
right?
I'm all in on Dom Mysterio.
Now hold on, real quick. With the crowd reaction, you got to remember that's an open stadium versus an enclosed arena. All right, so a lot of that pop is going to escape.
Well, hold on to that, Mark. They have a roof on Allegiant Stadium. Allegiant is closed in. Allegiant's not like SoFi or an open air stadium. It's a dome, right? It's completely closed in.
So let me ask you one more question about WrestleMania, and then I want you to talk about the parties. But before we get there, I'll let Mark ask you any questions if he has any. My question is this: what was the overall reaction to the John Cena, the ending of the John Cena Cody Rhodes match? And I don't know if you watched the review being Mark yet. I thought that this match was ingenious. I think that this was purposely done this way because John Cena said that for him to be a heel, he'd do everything opposite. John Cena's already entertaining, so he wasn't going to be entertaining. Also thought this is why they didn't include The Rock, because The Rock represents a bunch of entertainment. So I thought this was ingenious. I got it. I know a lot of fans didn't get it. But what was the overall reaction to everything that happened and the ending of the match?
Hey, overall, and when I mean overall, I'm talking the entire stadium. You would have never thought John Cena was a heel. When the 1, 2, 3 hit, it was like prime 2015 John Cena. The crowd erupted, right? Throughout the match. So the section I was sitting in for night 2, section 346, everybody in that section, with the exception of maybe me and 3 other people, all John Cena, right? I think people are still trying to grasp, well, do we boo him or do we cheer him? He's not doing nothing to turn the needle to really boo him, but he's not doing it to really cheer. So do we go with our allegiance? My son is a prime example. All he's ever known, he's 22 years old. So he didn't grow up in the Hogan era, the Attitude Era. All he's known is John Cena. All he's known is babyface John Cena. Even when he turned heel, he's like, I'm still rocking with him. Fuck that shit, right? And to see his reaction, now that was a father-son moment, right? But to see his reaction, nobody was going the way you leave Allegiant Stadium, right? 65,000 people leaving the same exit at one time. All you heard was "Let's Go Cena" leaving Allegiant Stadium, all the way down Mandalay Bay Road to Las Vegas Boulevard. Let's go Cena.
Now, I want, if Mark has any questions, spend a couple of minutes on that. And then after that, I want you to just give me 5 minutes because you know, I don't want to go too far over, and talk about some of the after parties, some parties or two. I know that you went to the Busted Open Radio. Those guys are your friends. I want you to talk about that. But, you know, Mark, do you have any questions?
No, not really. I'm just kind of fighting dogs barking, so I'm putting on mute.
All right.
Sorry.
No good.
You know, as far as Xena goes, you know, I did grow up in the Hogan era, actually pre-Hogan. You know, the whole Xena thing right now, I'm kind of downtrodden on his facial expressions more than anything else. Other than that, I don't have a problem with him.
I'm telling
know?
you, well, let me say this real quick. From the moment he turned heel and started making those facial expressions, the son of a bitch looks like JBL. I'm just saying, he does.
When he walked out the other night, he looked like JBL. Without a doubt, he looked like JBL.
Absolutely. Now, David, give me just 5 minutes to talk about both the Busted Open Party, some of the people that you met, and the experience.
Real quickly, I'll do the complete rundown. Okay, so we got into Vegas at 1:30 in the morning on Thursday after driving from Wichita. Got a motel room because I couldn't get my Airbnb till the afternoon. Got some sleep, got up, said, you know, it's Vegas. My son and I went to WWE World. We didn't have tickets to the World. I want to go to the Superstore. Big experience there because and you guys can go on my Facebook and see all the pictures and videos. I spent 30 minutes waiting in line to get into another line for another hour to get into the Superstore. Now I have Chime as a debit card. So that worked to its advantage because they were one of the sponsors of the Superstore. So if you had a Chime account, you got to, you know, the Chime line. So watching people wait in line for an hour to check out, I didn't have to. So that puts me to Thursday night. My son and I went down to Fremont Street and watched a event sponsored by WWE 2K25, a video game face-off between Carmelo Hayes and Meechin. Meechin whooped his ass. I tell you, Carmelo Hayes needs to go on up, down, down and learn how to play some video games. Cool experience. Got to meet Byron Saxton and Meechin. Very next night, another bucket list checked off. I thought it was going to be a cover band. I'm like, there's no way they're going to be down here for free on Fremont Street. So Friday night, my wife and my son and I went and watched Living Color perform live on Fremont, right?
Nice.
There's probably about 8,000 people out there. And so then that puts us to Saturday. Saturday is a big day. Busted Open Party, Sirius XM. I could go to a WrestleMania weekend and not have to go to WrestleMania and still fulfill all my wrestling. When I mean bucket list, like I said, this is my 4th WrestleMania in a row, and I go to all the Busted Open parties. I'm real good friends with Dave LaGreca, the creator of Busted Open. I've got a good relationship with Tommy Dreamer, Mark Henry, and Bully Ray. His real name is Mark. And Saturday, that party was no less. That was another bucket list because the beginning of the show, I get to meet Natty. I've got pictures with me and Natty Neidhart, who is now a member of the Busted Open team, who watched her kick ass Friday night at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, along with Karrion Kross, who I happened to meet in the hallway. But the other bucket part of that was they bring out the Bella twins. Now, anybody that's ever had a preconceived, oh man, I bet you they're stuck up broads in real life, right? When they're not getting paid to take pictures with you. Totally wrong. Is I got pictures with both of them, right? And but the highlight of that is I don't know how much you guys watch TNA, but there's a guy that works for TNA, wrestles for TNA by the name of Chris Bay. Mm-hmm. Chris Bay had a nasty, life-altering, paralyzing in-ring accident. It was never known if he was ever going to walk again. Chris Bay is walking again.
Wow.
And man, to watch this man walk into the Club Intrigue inside the Wynn Resort. Oh, that was just, well worth it. And then my wife and I, Google Maps lied to me. Actually, I hit the wrong button. When I searched from the Wynn Hotel to Allegiant Stadium, I hit the driving directions. Well, driving directions is only 1 mile and 1.78 miles. She's like, okay, well, let's just leave the car parked in the garage where it's at and we'll walk. But as we got going, that's the longest 1.5 miles, 1.75 miles. Look again. Oh, I hit the driving window. So anyway, we walked from the Wynn Hotel, which is 3.5 miles to Allegiant Stadium, but we walked down the strip and, sightseeing, and you could not go anywhere and not see some type of wrestling merch, whether it be a t-shirt, a hat, a belt, something, awesome. Right? And so then we go, nice eventful night one, good seats. I still think match of the night has to go to the main event, right? Doesn't matter I wanted CM Punk to win, but I'm the type, if you go looking for something, I want this to happen, you're going to walk away disappointed every time. I tell people that, especially when people say, oh, you had crappy seats. I don't go for the viewing. I go for the experience, right?
And
if you go for the viewing, then you better be ready to spend 20 grand.
So real quick, and then we're going to wrap it up.
I got one more thing. Go ahead. While you're doing that, I got something I want to grab behind me to show you.
Okay. What I want to know is, because you've been to 4 WrestleManias in a row, based upon, just the 4 that you've been to, where would you rank this WrestleMania? Let's wrap this up really quick.
I would have to rank this probably number 2 to me, just based on experience and things I got to do. I'd have to go into a whole story about what happened in LA and the busted open party at the Whiskey A Go-Go, right? The world famous Whiskey A Go-Go. Mm-hmm. But real quickly, they were handing out, actually at the WWE Superstore, they were selling those Topps Chrome Travis Scott Mankind cards, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the quote unquote VIP bots, they got the early store entrance, bought up every one of them. So at the end of night 2, Topps was giving away 5-pack, mini 5-pack, 5 cards per pack, with the possibility of numbered cards. Obviously, anybody that collects any type of sports cards know that your numbered cards are the value, right? So I have a lot. I don't know, really, you can't see it, but the different dice, the different color, like I've got a Chad Gable that's 3 of 10, right? Mm. So it was pretty cool to get that. That was almost kind of like, well, if I decide to sell these, some of them are going on eBay. 20 of 25 Seth Rollins went on eBay for $500.
Wow.
And I have a 12 of 25.
Nice.
So that overall experience, I'll put this, at least if I had to just off the top of my head and think about things I've done, this will go number 2. I'll say LA and Philadelphia were tied for 1, just because of the outside Mania experience.
Right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. Monday at 6 o'clock, I believe, Brian Hardy is going to be on the podcast. I will be interviewing him. So subscribe to our channel, share it so you can catch this. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend. Mark, David, thank you for joining me. Mark, give it to me, brother.
Ring the damn bell.
Ring the damn
ding,
bell, everybody.
Ding.
See you guys on Monday.